please let me know.
We're live now, Councillor Pickin.
Thank you. And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome and thank you for attending the Wakefield Licensing Authorities Subcommittee hearing today. I am Councillor Sandra Pickin and I am acting chair today. We also have Councillors Carrington and Councillor Cruz. We have Community Services Officers, which are Jane Idle and Karen Malcolm. Dave Ollis, and our legal is Paul Jakes. Can I please ask the applicant to introduce himself, please? Is that Mr. Freeman? Can you hear me? Mr. Freeman, can you hear me, please?
Hello, my name's Ross. I'm waiting for Jim Freeman. He's supposed to be leading BKB. I'm with Jim.
Right.
So I'm just waiting for him. He's already texted me saying he just received a long email from you, and he was checking in. So I'm surprised he isn't there by now, because I've just had that text from him 10 minutes ago. So just bear with me 1 second.
Hello.
There he is.
Hello. Is that Mr. Freeman?
It is, yeah. How you doing? Sorry, my computer, I've not done Skype for years, and my computer was having a bit of a play around with it.
So I'm just making sure you're here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. And can I have please representation, please?
Hello, it's PC John Kay from the licensing team, and I've got Sergeant Matt Thorold and PC Toby Warden with me as well.
Right, thank you. And we also have an environmental officer with us today.
Yes, it's Julie Barker. I'm the team leader for the safety and health protection team.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask, are there any declarations of interest not previously declared today?
No, Chair.
Thank you. I take the silence as a no. Councillor Cruz. All applications that come before the subcommittee will be treated on their own merits, and the licensing authority will take its decision based upon the merits of the application, the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives, the policy of the licensing authority, copies of which are available on the council's website, the recently revised guidance issued by the Home Office under section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. The 4 licensing objectives are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. I will just give a brief outline on how the proceedings will go today. First, we'll have our legal officer who will outline the case. Then the applicant will give out their representation, followed by questions from committees. Then there'll be the responsible authorities, i.e. the police and the environmental health, again followed by questions from the committee. Interested parties, if we have any. All parties will then be present, will be given the opportunity to summarise if they have any points that they wish. And then we will go, in the subcommittee, we'll go into a private session for discussion before we fetch you all back in again to give you our decisions. Is that okay with everybody? And I'll take your silence as a yes. Thank you. Then I will ask Paul Jakes, our legal officer, to outline the matter before the subcommittee today. Mr. Jakes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Hopefully everybody can hear me. This is an application that's been made by James Freeman for a temporary event notice to be held at premises at Production Park, 53 Lidgate Crescent in South Kirby. Notice was received by the Licensing Authority on the 11th of November 2020. The licensing activities that the applicant's intending to carry out at the premises commencing on the 27th of November and ending on the same date is behind closed doors boxing, and details are with an event weigh-in at 12 noon and the event to be shown live online between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. Pursuant to section 1042 of the Licensing Act 2003, 2 objection notices have been received by the licensing authority from responsible authorities West Yorkshire Police and Environmental Health, who have set out the reasons why allowing the premises to be used in accordance with the notice would undermine the licensing objectives, crime and disorder and public nuisance. Following receipt of those objection notices, this authority is therefore required to hold a hearing pursuant to section 105 of the Licensing Act. And having considered the representations of the applicant and the responsible authorities, the licensing authority will consider the application objection notice, will take one of the following steps: issue a counter notice to the premises user if it considers it appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives to do so, and to not issue a counter notice and give notice of its decision to the premises user and West Yorkshire Police. So those are the 2 options, Chair, having heard the representations.
Thank you, Paul. Can I therefore ask the applicant if they would like to outline their application, please?
Okay, yeah. Hello, everyone. So basically we was looking at having an event at the production park similar to what MTK are doing under the same COVID guidance. So, i.e. COVID tests on the Wednesday, testing again on the Thursday, everyone going to their room in their bubble on the Thursday. But providing the tests come back negative, they would then leave their rooms from the Friday morning. We then stay within our bubble with COVID transport to the venue, and then you can see the outline from the venue plan, the same as what they've done on a few previous shows as well in regards to COVID regulations at the venue. And then we'd put on a show with our staff under, social distancing, masks, all the sort of guidelines that you'd expect in an event in the current climate.
Is that it, Mr. Freeman?
Yeah, that's basically it.
Got anything else to say about your application, though?
In regards to?
Well, the application. We've got the application in front of us here to say what you've filled in and for why. If that's all you want to put forward, that's fine. Then I'll just go to questions from committee. That's okay.
Yeah, they can make some questions and I can answer any questions you've got about it. So I'm not used to this process. We haven't ever had an issue in a 10 before in 6 years. So this is the first time. I didn't realise it'd be this form. If I knew it was going to be like this, I'd have probably brought my solicitor along with me.
Okay, cool. Councillor Carrington, have you got any questions?
Not at the moment, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Cruz?
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering how many people were planning to attend this event, if you know.
Yeah, there'll be around 60 people, and that's mainly the competitors, staff, the cornermen of them. So yeah, be under 100, which is why on the 10 notice I ticked under 100. I think there was some confusion with, they was thinking under 100 was going to be spectators, but like I said, it's going to be the same, exactly the same principles, exactly the same venue, exactly the same guidance, exactly the same risk assessment as what an event was at the same venue 2 weeks ago, and what's at the venue on a week on Wednesday as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've just seen that Paul's put a message in. Can I just confirm that members have seen the applicant's emails? The last information we got this morning, I received mine anyway.
Yeah, I have too.
Yeah. You okay with all
I've
yours?
received
Yeah.
mine, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is that all right, Paul?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you. I had just one question. I'm just going to go back over your page for it. You say on your application that you've gone through all the COVID tests, 19 tests to make sure everybody's safe.
Yeah, we will be. Yeah.
So you're going to do that. You're not doing that now till Wednesday on Thursday. That's 2 days before.
Exactly the same as MTK do. That, like I said, that their current protocols. They get tested on the Wednesday. Everyone stays in their room. They're not allowed out of the room. They stay secure until they get a negative result. So they do a test when they first get there, and they test again on the Thursday, ready for the Friday. So it's double testing, all social distancing, hand gels, masks, face shields, all the sort of things that you'd expect.
Okay, thank you. No more questions to Mr. Freeman?
Can I just ask, have you got the full COVID plan? Because a lot of the information I was sending, I've been sending only to the police, because the police I was directly dealing with. It was only I was aware of sending anyone else any emails on Friday. No one's been giving me any information, and I've been dealing with lots of people sending different objections that were the same as someone else was sending. So there might well be some missing information that you guys have not had, because I was sending information predominantly to the police.
Yeah, Mr. Freeman, we've got all those. They were all sent in a bundle, what we've got today.
Could I just interrupt, Chair?
Yes, you can.
The information you've got was a collection of emails that Mr. Freeman sent last week, and I agreed to send them on to the committee and to Environmental Health and the police to make sure everybody got what he'd sent up to that point. He may have sent more emails since. If he has, then you haven't got them.
I think the last one we've got on here is 18th of November, 14:34 p.m.
Yeah, there's been a lot more emails since then. Sorry to kind of interrupt. But yeah, I've sent stuff since then.
Mr. Freeman, do you want to summarise information in more detail then?
I'm not exactly sure the information you need or what you have got and haven't got, so it's difficult for me to surmise. You want me to go through what our company does, what events we've had, where we've been in the past? I'm not sure which angle you're kind of you're coming from. If I tell you about BKB, we've done 36 shows in this country. We've been in Nottingham, Liverpool, West Midlands, Warwickshire, London, London, and we've had our last, I think, probably 12 shows have been at the London O2. So we don't have any issues in terms of public safety or putting sort of shows on. Like I said, probably a little bit naive into this process because it's not something we've ever done before. Even in the early days, people always engaged with us and we had meetings and discussed stuff and put plans into place of what needed to be done to put on an event. I feel a little bit broadsided. I've actually just came onto my phone now, saw an email from the police that was 27 pages long of stuff that was going to be presented, with no chance for me to recourse or have any look at what was put in this email. And some of the emails on there are dated from the 17th of November, so I've had no chance to write anything down to counter produce any information on it.
Okay. I think we've got the same emails as you got. We've got the email chain going back that tells us the questions that were passed from one to the other. So it's the information that we've got. I think from you.
If it makes a difference afterwards, I'm happy to do a full risk assessment. I'm happy to sort all the COVID plan. Any questions that the licensing committee have got to put on a safe event, I'm happy to put them to you guys. Like I said, I do feel a little bit that we've been kind of set up to fail with this. We've not had an opportunity to really work with anyone or sort of to get anything going really. But it's just been literally stuff like I say. I've had an email. I don't know when it was sent, but it would have been within the last hour before we come on this call, which is 27 pages long, which is from the police, which was just I find ludicrous in truth.
Mr. Jakes.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just taking up on what Mr. Freeman's saying, the hearing regulations do permit exchange of information and for information to be submitted to the licensing authority, which the parties can rely upon at the hearing. But obviously, I'm here to ensure that there's a fair hearing, and I hear what you're saying, that if you've only had this information submitted to you, it will be fair that you have time to consider that information. Perhaps it would assist. You almost seem to be of an assumption that the members are familiar with what you're talking about in terms of your events. It would certainly assist in giving the members an understanding of what the application is all about. If you take it back to the beginning and explain what type of events you put on. I know you've referred to events that have been all over the country. I'm not sure whether you've done an online streaming event during the last 9 months. I think the more information you can give to the committee, then when the committee consider the police's representations, which includes the 27-page document you're referring to, they will also ask questions of the police. And I'm just giving you the opportunity. If at any point you do feel that you would benefit from a 15-minute pause, subject to the chair, that may be worth standing the matter down for 15 minutes to enable you to put some further representations together. It's a matter for the chair, but I'm just trying to assist in the words that you've just said. You've been set up to fail. I'm here to ensure that there's a fair hearing and that's not the case. So please feel free to say if you require a short adjournment.
Okay, well, sorry, I was completely unaware. So yeah, let me tell you a little bit about the company. So I'll give you a little bit of background. The event we're proposing is bare knuckle boxing. The rule set we have is the same as glove professional boxing. It's just gloveless combat basically. We're regulated by the WBKBC, which is the World Bare Knuckle Boxing Council. We're similar to MMA, where MMA, there's not one regulatory body who oversees the whole of MMA. But if a UFC wanted to put an event in Wakefield, I'm sure that would happen. All our stats are on the professional boxing record, which is called BoxRec, which is the same as the glove boxing. We've got full medical care, so we have the same medical care as what you'd have at any professional gloved event. Obviously, like I said, I've already explained sort of COVID regulations at the minute. We have legal betting, so that you can bet on the events in all over the world through legal betting, and the event's streamed to 28 countries live at any one time. So it's we're going out on basically the version of Sky Sports in Russia, Ukraine. So it's quite a big event. Our competitors earn thousands of pounds, not hundreds of pounds. They're professional athletes. They train for 12 weeks prior to the events. And like I said, our last 14 events, 2 was at the Liverpool Echo Arena, and 12 was at the London O2. BKB is entirely owned by myself and a guy called Joe Brown, who's an accountant from Bournemouth. We're both fully DBS checked. All the staff are all fully DBS checked. There is no sort of criminal fraternity that you'd have or any kind of preconceived perception of what you'd get with a bare knuckle boxing event. We're the only legal licensed one in the world, and we stand by the record and what event we put on, and it's a really great event. I was completely unaware that we had to get a 10 until the day prior that I put it in. And like I said, I've never even in the early days where we didn't have massive information to provide, obviously now we're putting events on at the London O2. That should hopefully rest some of any misgivings you've got in terms of the event that we're putting on, because the event is secure in every way. We wouldn't have the event any other way. Our medical care is so we have an ambulance, fast responders, 2 doctors, a trauma medic and a medic on site. They're with us. Medical care is with us at the hotel from the Thursday as well, so all day Thursday. The COVID testing is done by two separate medics, and we have 2 SIA security badge guys staying with us at the hotel as well. So the whole process is secure. We've booked COVID transport from the hotel, we're staying at the Holiday Inn, which is the Holiday Inn Express, which is the closest hotel. We've spent £15,000, in hotel costs with food costs, because they have to deliver food to the room because the guys obviously are not allowed out. The whole event is around £100,000 event. There's probably about £50,000 worth of betting goes on, and it's probably, certainly, I would say, locally putting around £50,000 back into the economy of local people. Our medics are local, all the riggers, the lighting, the filming guys are local, the hotels are local. One of our fighters is from Wakefield as well, so it bringing a lot into the sort of local community. So that's really a little bit about our company and the events that we put on. And we're a platinum promoter at the O2, so we're a trouble-free event.
Jim, can I add a little bit there? Is that
yes,
all right? With the chair, thank you. I'm a professional broadcaster. At the moment, I'm working for TalkSport, but I've covered world boxing titles all over the world, World Cups, all sorts of things. And I have to say, BKB's attention to detail and safety is as good as any. So much so that people like Eddie Hearn are fans. Frank Bruno is an ambassador of the company. They wouldn't do that were they not completely happy with the protocols and the safety. It's as good as any I've ever seen anywhere, and perhaps better than some in boxing, if I'm truthful. Better than some. But rest assured, as a professional broadcaster, I could not afford to be involved in anything that wasn't absolutely spot on, and this is. Thank you.
Can I just ask you a question, Mr. Freeman? You say that your boxers are all professionally. Are they all full-time professional boxers?
No, but professional boxers are not full-time. So you had an MTK show a week last Wednesday at the same venue. There wasn't a single fighter on the show that's full-time. Outside of the elite boxers, so like you, Anthony Joshua's, world champions, most people have a job. So we've probably currently got about a dozen full-time fighters. The rest are part-time fighters and have various jobs. You know, some of them, we've got a bank manager, we've got various different people that are full-time, but they earn a substantial amount of money. That, you know, like I say, they're full-time trainers. They're in good shape. They don't, you know, it's not just a guy that you're getting from the pub that comes for a fight. These are full-time professional athletes, and the majority of them have been full-time professional athletes in glove boxing and MMA as well.
Okay. Any further questions from Councillor Carrington?
Yeah, just a question, please, Chair. Mr. Freeman, you were talking about the COVID secure things what you've got in place. Can I just clarify? So before each event, do you actually carry out your own risk assessment for the venue at the time?
Yeah, so the COVID protocols are exactly the same as the 10 notices, which you've had 4 shows previously at the same venue. So we have the green zones, the amber zones, the red zones. I can forward on a full COVID plan that we've got in regards to that. And like I said, everything's kept in a bubble. So when they have their testing, they have to go to their room. If they fail a test, the fight's off and they go home. Exactly the same as the event you have Wednesday. I did forward the police a full COVID plan in respect of what we was doing, so that should be available. If it isn't for yourself, by all means I can forward one on, and it's like I say, it's the same COVID plan, exactly the same hotels that they're staying in, the same transport, the same COVID testers, exactly the same as the event that was passed last Wednesday, and exactly the same as the event that's a week on Wednesday.
Right, okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Cruz?
Hi, yeah. Sorry, my phone just rang then, and I left the meeting for a second. Sorry, can you just say that again? Hello?
The COVID tests, you mean? Mr. Freeman, can you just repeat what you've just said to Councillor Carrington about your COVID?
Yes, please. Yeah,
no
yes,
problem.
please.
So by all means, I have sent a full COVID plan, which I can resend at any point to anyone. So our COVID testing is exactly the same as the event that you had 2 weeks last Wednesday at the same venue. It's the same hotel we're staying in, so it's the same COVID test as they use, and the event that you've got a week on Wednesday that's past the 10 notice as well. So it's exactly the same. We're creating our bubble. We have green zones, amber zones, red zones. So everyone on site is tested. So you know it's full testing for everyone, and like I say, it's full social distancing, hand gels provided, masks and shields for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Can you just explain that to me? On your application, you've got the event starts on the 27th of the 11th.
Yeah, so the event is for the Friday. So we have the weigh-in at the venue at midday on the Friday. And then everyone stays within the venue. So we're bringing food in for the venue. No one's allowed to leave, and then the fights would start at 6 o'clock, running through to 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it was just why you're saying by a week on Wednesday. Haven't you just got me confused on that?
Sorry, no. Basically, there's a glove show called MTK, which has been having events during lockdown, and they've had 4 events, which just they've had tenants for, because I know the guy who owns them. He was the one who recommended me to come to the production park and put shows on. So I know they've had 4 events, and they've got an event a week Wednesday as well. So I was just highlighting that the fact is that they've had 4 events under them COVID guidelines, and we just did exactly the same, because we was thinking, if it's not broke, don't fix it. What if they're doing exactly that's fine and it's COVID secure, then that's going to be COVID secure for us. So we've invested heavily in that. You know, the testing alone is just shy of £20,000 that we've got in place.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anyone else? No more questions.
No, thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Right, then we'll move to the responsible authorities. Who's going first? The police or environmental health?
I don't mind whether I go first or last.
Do you want to go first then, Julie?
Yeah. I think there's maybe a little bit of confusion about the documentation that's been sent. I've been sent something called a consultation document for behind closed doors boxing. Is that what Mr. Freeman means by the risk assessment?
Hi, is it Julie or Julia? Sorry.
It's Julie.
Sorry, beg your pardon, Julie. Obviously,
yeah.
Our first email was only a couple of days ago, wasn't it? Perhaps Friday or Thursday. I did make efforts to get hold of Environment Health to get information to you, but no one got back to me. I wasn't able to find who the right person was until I got that email beforehand. So that was my first communication. So no, there's actually a full COVID plan sent across that I can get across to you, and hopefully that can put your mind at rest with what needs to be done.
Okay, so I'll just briefly go through what I've got, and maybe you'll be able to provide some more information later. So I've looked through the consultation document for behind closed doors boxing tournaments, and it's basically a guidance document that I presume is for your type of event, and you've inserted some bits here and there that sort of made it your own, but there are some bits missing. So my main concern was that I didn't have enough information to satisfy myself that this event could be done safely, therefore was prejudicial to health. So if I give you just a couple of examples of the types of information that I think is necessary and I haven't had, maybe you can fill in the blanks. So you make reference to similar boxing events that have taken place at the proposed venue, and you say that the same measures will be implemented. But when I've looked through that document, it says in one place, emphasis is only on essential officials to be appointed to run the event safely, including promoter and broadcasters. So what I would expect to see there in a full risk assessment or a management plan would be a list of those essential personnel for this specific event. And all I've got is, you've just said now it would be about 60, and in the application form it said up to 100, but I got no real idea of who those people were. So I would expect a full breakdown of who was going to be present, so I could satisfy myself that only those essential people who were really needed to be there were there. So that's one example. Another example is, in the document it says BKBTM, whatever that is, will contact the medical director of hospitals directly identified as destinations for emergency departments or neurosurgical care to see if they can accommodate any injured boxers. So what I'd expect to see there would be which hospitals are those for this district, who you've contacted and what their response was. And I've spoken to our Director of Public Health this morning about the current situation at our local hospitals, and to say she was very concerned is an understatement. It's her belief that they can't cope with any additional pressure being put on them as a result of injured boxers attending either A&E or neurosurgical departments, and as a result that would either be prejudicial to their health because they couldn't be treated very quickly, or it would be prejudicial to other people's health as a knock-on effect because they'd be waiting longer for treatment. So we'll be quite interested to know who you've contacted, which hospitals, and what their response has been. So, in conclusion, what I would say is that a national lockdown is meant to severely restrict the movement and gathering of people, except for essential reasons. And I'd argue that hosting a pay-per-view bare-knuckle boxing event isn't essential at this time. Having up to 100 people in attendance poses an additional risk of transmitting coronavirus, and any injuries arising from this bare-knuckle boxing event risk putting additional strain on our already overstretched hospitals at this time. The combined effects of those are that potentially prejudicial to health. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carrington, have you got any questions to Julie?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Cruz, have you got any questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
I've got one, Julie. You're saying when we have a big event like this, then the local hospitals or the health authority are contacted to more or less flag up if something goes wrong, can we accommodate them? Is that what we do for all big events?
Not necessarily, but it's in this guidance document, and that this is what will happen. And I'm just asking, has that happened, and what was the response?
Is that because the situation we're in now with the lockdown and COVID?
It's the situation that we're in at the moment with our local hospitals are really struggling.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Freeman, did you want to answer a question to?
Yeah, just add on that, and that's all right and proper. The medical care, the medical people have been in touch with the local hospitals. They didn't really show much interest in the fact of the worst case scenario, a couple of boxes would go in. And I'd also just add the point is a 10 was passed during lockdown for the same venue, the same amount of competitors 2 weeks ago on that. So, I just don't see if why is it concerned now that it wasn't a concern then?
Could I just say that this is the first 10 I've seen.
Yeah. Can we have that clarified later when we go? Please. Right, thank you. I'll have that clarified by a day later. There's no more questions for Julie? No? Then we will go over to Paul. You wanted to come in? Sir Jakes, do you want to come in?
Yes, Chair. You just on that point you've raised. It's probably something licensing authority can answer Mr. Hollis if he's got the opportunity. Regarding the recent TENs that have been submitted, there's clearly been no objection to those TENs, and it's really a question of how those TENs were submitted to the authority. If they were submitted to the authority, as I understand, electronically, as may well have been the case, and it's the licensing authority's responsibility to notify responsible authorities. So Environmental Health are stating in the heading that this is the first 10 that they've become aware of. So obviously we can only deal with today's application, but that may provide some understanding as to why that is the position.
Yeah, that's fine.
Apologies, Chair. Yes, I was just trying to dig out the email that we received that was outlining the previous emails, previous TENs that we've received. There was a temporary event notice for an event on the 11th of November, which is, I'm presuming that's the event Mr. Freeman's referring to. There were also 3 events in August, 1 event in September and 1 in October. Now, those events may or may not have been applied for a while ago. It was only at the start of the lockdown and the coronavirus outbreak that Julie would have been contacted as a team as far as the circulation for events is concerned. It may be those events were applied for before we started sending emails to Julie and her team, but I can certainly investigate that later on if you'd like me to do.
Yes, please, Dave. I think that'd be more than welcome. Thank you. Then can I ask the police then to put their evidence forward?
Hello, it's Sergeant Thorold, Chair. If I can just speak briefly, John Kay is actually going to present most of our evidence, but I just want to raise a point that's already been spoken about. Mr. Freeman has raised the issue of why he got this bundle of evidence from the police so late. Mr. Kay can talk about the quality of the submission that we had and problems there. But one of the other areas I've been involved in is in liaison with our Gold Command in relation to coronavirus and our Legal Services Department. The information we're relying upon came through from Legal Services on Friday at around 3 p.m. I did speak with Mr. Hollis, I think it was earlier that day, to explain to him that we were struggling to get our information through and just inquire what was required and when we had to get this information in. I've actually been working on this in my own time yesterday afternoon to actually get an understanding of the legal opinion of our Legal Services Department. So we have been really pushed for time with this. It has been very intensive. That's why Mr. Freeman has only got what he's got today.
That's fine.
Do you want to go on, John? Do you want to?
Yeah.
I'll hand over to John. Yeah. John Kay was going to go through the initial element of our objection.
Okay. Thank you. West Yorkshire Police are objecting to the 10 on following grounds. Firstly, there wasn't enough information on the 10 to enable us to make an informed decision as to whether the event would be run without undermining the prevention of crime and disorder objective, given that it was for a behind closed doors boxing event. It only later became apparent that it was bare knuckle boxing. The form requires the user to describe key aspects of the proposed event, including the general nature of the premises and the event, which is outlined in the guidance notes. Secondly, when considering the prevention of public nuisance, there was insufficient information provided that it would be a COVID safe event which would limit the spread of coronavirus, or that those taking part were elite athletes insofar as they were individuals who derived a living from competing in a sport. We've since been advised by our Legal Services Department that the event does not fall into one of those permitted exemptions within the regulations in relation to movement of people, as the activity is not considered to be reasonably necessary in times when rates of COVID infection are so high. It's the police's belief that the gathering would be unlawful and would clearly undermine the prevention of crime and disorder objective. In the section of the 10 where Mr. Freeman is required to provide information on key aspects of the event, there were only 4 words which were behind closed doors boxing. We've since been in contact with Mr. Freeman by email and telephone and requested further information. That request was made on Thursday the 12th of November. By Monday the 16th of November, we had not received any supporting documentation from Mr. Freeman or BKB. And as the deadline for representation was the next day, West Yorkshire Police's objection was submitted. Information was eventually received from BKB outside working hours on Monday the 16th. The documentation was largely generic in its content with regard to COVID-19 prevention measures and appeared to be a direct lift from that provided by the British Boxing Board of Control relating to behind closed doors events. So no risk assessment or event management plan, which is specific to the 27th of November event, has been received. Mr. Freeman has provided a timetable and itinerary of pre-event COVID testing, isolation and transport to the arena, and he's also provided the names of those taking part by email. However, this again doesn't form part of any sort of formal risk assessment. He has been asked for evidence in support of his assertion that all the fighters are elite athletes, and specifically asked for their employment contracts, which he offered to us in an email. So far, we've only been provided with one contract for one individual, and there are 16 listed to fight. This contract was sent to us on the 17th of November. It's also become apparent during conversation and email exchanges that BKB were originally planning to use the London's O2 Arena for this event on the same date.
Mr. Freeman informed us that the event had been cancelled by the O2 because they had furlough staff, and for that reason they could not adequately support the event. This account differs from one we've received from a representative from the O2 who informed us that via email that they cancelled the event because it was not deemed an elite sport. And if I can refer you to page 5 of the email bundle that was sent through, you can see that there. And that's an email by Jan Chadwick in the second paragraph of her email.
Yeah.
If you're happy with that, I'll continue.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay. We've also been in contact with a senior licensing officer from Royal Greenwich Council who has advised the O2 in relation to the proposed event on the 27th. He was able to confirm the advice he had given to the O2 from his Director of Public Health and the Head of Environmental Services that it couldn't quite make the event fit into the elite sports bracket. And again, I can refer you to that email, which is page 4 of the bundle, which has been sent through, and it's the top paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay. During a telephone conversation I had with Mr. Freeman on Thursday the 19th of November, I specifically asked him if the O2 event was cancelled due to issues around his boxers not being elite athletes. He denied this, stating it was purely a staffing issue. And again, if I can refer you to page 21 of the bundle, that's an email from Mr. Freeman stating that the cancellation was a business decision based on staffing issues. Thank you, Chair. That's everything that I wish to say at the moment. I think Sergeant Ford would like to just clarify some legal points.
Yeah, that's okay.
Good afternoon, Chair, everybody. As I've already mentioned, we received some information from our Legal Services Department very late on Friday. It is not an easy read, if I'm honest, and it's obviously an area of business that we in the licensing department are not too familiar with, so it's taken some time to work through, and I just want to make sure that I've explained it to you as best as I can, and hopefully Mr. Jakes there will be able to give you some proper guidance on what we're going to talk about. If I could refer you to page 23 of the bundle. This is what I've sort of typed up this morning to remind myself of this, and I've tried to make it quite concise. Just to state at the beginning, when we're looking at the regulations to do with the coronavirus, there are certain areas that are for the police to deal with and certain areas that environmental health will deal with. The police will deal with movement of people and gatherings. Environmental health, I'm sure Julie will confirm this, they look at businesses. So I've been back and forth with this as well with our Gold Command, trying to establish what I am allowed to talk about and what I can't talk about. So I am only going to talk about movement of people and gatherings. I'm not going to refer to the business that's actually involved in this LS Live that are facilitating this event. That's an area for Julie to deal with. So I'm going to restrict myself purely to those areas. So when you look at the regulations, if you look at page 23, about halfway down, I'm talking about Regulation 5, which refers to the movement of people. And there are a number of exceptions within this area that are covered under Regulation 6. So when we're looking at prevention of crime and disorder, a breach of regulations within Regulation 5 would amount to a criminal offence. I'm going to be speaking reference to quite a few areas, Paul. If I need to slow down, please tell me. Those enforcement options are referred to in Regulation 13, and what we can do in relation to those, and whether they amount to offences that we can deal with and fix penalties and things like that. So it would amount to a criminal offence if there was a breach. And then we've got the public nuisance element of it, which Julie's already alluded to in relation to, we're talking about people moving from one place to another and the spread of the virus. So when I've got the answer back from legal services, they look at exception 1. If you look there, regulation 6, exception 1, reasonably necessary for work. So although some of those attending may be there for work purposes, the police's position is that this event is not reasonably necessary when we're looking at the fact that the government have now put us into lockdown again because of the spread of the virus, for public safety and to stop people, acquiring the virus and in some cases dying. So I think we're up to 55,000 people now confirmed deceased because of coronavirus. So the police position would be that, looking at the wording reasonably necessary, we don't think this is a reasonably necessary event at this moment in time in all the circumstances with what the government are trying to achieve. The other exception that we're raising is the one that we've been asking Mr. Freeman to provide us evidence with, and as my colleagues just pointed out, we've only received one contract for one athlete, and Mr. Freeman actually, whilst he's been answering your questions, has referred to elite boxers and then talked about some of his boxers having other jobs. Regulation 3 covers the full definition of what an elite athlete is. Now, we don't think that, or our position is, that these fighters can be classed as being able to rely on the exception within Regulation 6, which is exception 2, that they are elite athletes. If you look at that, I have put a little bit in from that section. It talks about 4 areas. Number 1, they derive a living from competing in sport. Well, Mr. Freeman's already said that some of his boxers don't, they have other jobs. He's a senior representative nominated by a relevant sporting body. BKB, according to the British Boxing Board of Control, British Boxing Board of Control has told us, yes, it's not illegal to have bare knuckle boxing, but there is no recognised government body or governing body for this sport itself. So we don't think that's relevant. We don't think C is relevant, is a member of a senior training squad for a relevant sporting body, or is age 15 or above and is on an elite development pathway. If you look at the full regulation, which I haven't copied because it's quite extensive, it talks about this is being facilitated, this exception, to allow elite sportsmen to make a living, number 1, but also those on the pathway to go to the next Olympic Games and the next Commonwealth Games to make that natural progression as well. But if you look at the full regulation, you can see all of it there. So our opinion at this moment in time, and the police's position is that we do not believe that BKB meets that exception within Regulation 6. Are we all right with that before I continue?
Yes, I'm fine. Everybody else okay? I'll take your silence as yes.
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
So he asked for, or I emailed Mr. Freeman for contracts for the fighters on the 17th, and we only received one, as I say, so we've not received anything for the last 6 days. So that's where we're at that one. So moving on to gatherings. Gatherings is covered under Regulation 8, and the exceptions that allow gatherings are covered within Regulation 11. Just to mention, I'm advised by legal services, unlike the exceptions in relation to movement, the exceptions within Regulation 11 are what they are. They are exhaustive. There is no other exception you can apply. There's no other common sense to apply. It is purely, it's in this list or it's not. And again, the area that we are looking at here is going to be the same argument I've just had. So just to look at gatherings, it says no person may participate in a gathering unless any of the exceptions set out in Regulation 11 apply. So consists of 2 or more people, which takes place indoors, or which includes a private dwelling. And again, looking at prevention of crime and disorder, because it would there would be an offence committed should someone take part in a legal gathering, and public nuisance for the same reason again. A gathering could cause spread of the virus. I have made a little typo in the evidence section. I have put here the police position is that the gathering that Ellis Live would amount to an illegal gathering as an exception within Regulation 11. Then I put exception 2. Now, exception 2 under Reg 11 is work. So we're relying on, again, is it relevant for work? Again, it's the same argument. Some of the people attending, it could be, but we don't think that the fighters, which is exception 12, my apologies, I've missed that out, but it is exception 12 under Reg 11. We don't think that the exception for them to attend that gathering as elite sportsmen, again, is fulfilled. It's the same argument I just set out. We are talking in the application that they were looking at 100 attending, and Mr. Freeman again has said today, I think about 60 are attending the event. So we don't think that meets that criteria. I am going to mention one other area of business with this, which is there is a legal point in relation to Regulation 10.6. I'm only mentioning it because it's come under some discussion, and the police have sought a decision from legal counsel on this point. You may well have seen on the news items recently about the police not being able to issue fixed penalty notices for, I think it's £10,000 in relation to illegal gatherings. There's some confusion around this, and council have, if I summarise it without going any further really, council have looked at this and said 10.6 does no more than identify situations in which the organiser or facilitator of a gathering is not liable for the £10,000 fine for a first breach of the regulations. It does not provide an additional exception to those set out in Regulation 11. As I said at the beginning, the exceptions within 11 are the exceptions. There are no other exceptions. So 10.6, it is not a further exception for this to take place if that was to be looked at. The rest of the council's judgment is there in italics. So that's the police's position. Hopefully I've managed to explain, because it took me 2 hours to go through all of this yesterday, sat at home in my kitchen. It's quite a difficult area for us to work through. We only got this, as I say, late on Friday, and that's the police's main position, is the fact that, unfortunately for Mr. Freeman, the coronavirus lockdown has come in. We're not actually questioning how he runs events. We're saying, unfortunately, these regulations that the government have brought in are an issue on this occasion, and we don't believe that this event should take place in all the circumstances when we look at those areas of those regulations, and that's the police's position. One other area I could maybe help you with, PC Warden is sat with us. We have got, I think we were talking about other applications under the by other areas of boxing at the same location. I've got another couple of temporary event notice applications that I think Mr. Ellis might even have referred to. The reason we haven't objected to these fundamentally is the quality of the application that we've received, and the fact that they do fit the elite sport element. So that's why the police wouldn't get involved. We can't, as I say, we can only get involved in gatherings and movement. I can't get involved in things to do with businesses breaching the guidance. So LS Live is something I wouldn't be getting involved with. This is purely movement of these individuals and the gathering when they get at the event. So they don't fit, as far as we're concerned, the elite sports person element, and that's why we didn't question the other 10 that we've seen.
Okay. Thank you for that. I've just got a quick question. You're saying you've known about this event since Monday 16th. Is that when the police were notified?
We would have been notified when the licensing authority made us aware of the temporary event notice.
I think that was on the 12th.
Coming through.
Well, Friday, it's May. We've got the wrong date down here. And you say you still haven't received the full risk assessment?
Well, the risk assessment, to be honest, as I pointed out by noting that decision or opinion from council on the issue of the gathering, the assessment, and this is one area I didn't cover. The risk assessment is only. In fact, let me start again. Let me start again with that one. I have missed something here. You've raised a very good question. Relating to the gathering and this regulation 10.6, there must be, for the gathering to take place, a risk assessment, and it must comply with the Health and Safety at Work Act. Yep. And then the operator must also be able to show that they are complying with the guidance in relation to all the elements to prevent the spread of the virus. But as I've just said, as far as we are concerned, the police, reference to a risk assessment and to the guidance would not make this gathering lawful. It would only mean that we couldn't issue a £10,000 fixed penalty notice. The gathering would still not be lawful according to council's opinion. So whether there is a risk assessment or not, and again, I'm not wanting to step into Julie's world, but from our point of view, with the gathering, whether there is a risk assessment or not, it would still amount to an illegal gathering because they are not elite athletes.
Yeah.
So it's irrelevant as far as we're concerned.
Okay. And the question was, you said you've only got the contract of one boxer, which is what you put in your bundle today. Mr. Cunningham, is that the only one you've got?
We only got one. I actually personally emailed Mr. Freeman, I think it was on the 17th. I think we received it either that day or the day after, but following that we received no other contracts to show that anybody was earning any money under any contractual agreement with BKB.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Carrington? Come to you first.
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Cruz?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay. You got anything, Paul?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I did have a question. I think the police have answered the question in that they've confirmed that they were aware of the temporary event notice applications at the venue, certainly for the event that took place in the last couple of weeks. But they say that they didn't object because there was more detail on the application. I'm just wondering whether they can just explain what detail was on that application and that they were satisfied that they were elite sportsmen. So what were they? What information did they have to be satisfied of that?
Do you want to read it out? So, P.C. Warden's actually got it with him, so if I told me to read it out to you, Paul.
Yeah, basically it says describe the nature of the event below. In this application, I believe it was just behind closed door boxing. It actually states here, behind closed doors professional boxing event under government COVID-19 elite sport returns domestic competition guidance and under the British board, the Boxing Board of Control, to be broadcast by IFL TV over the internet. Although the show is not open to spectators and is restricted to boxers and the support staff, cornermen, cutsmen and trainers, broadcast technicians and BBBOC officials, including whips, inspectors, timekeepers, referees and doctors and paramedics, and promoters and staff and security. The show is for profit under Schedule 1, provision of the Regulated Entertainment, Part 1, General Definitions of the Licensing Act 2003. This is a risk assessed control environment with COVID-19 pre-screening, post-event venue deep clean. So it states the difference between both different applications.
Obviously, Paul, that's the British Boxing Board of Control, so they are classed as elite sport. And obviously, we're only dealing with gatherings and movement as police officers. We can't get involved in the business aspect of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but can I come back on that? You're saying these events were before we've gone into this last lockdown, though?
Just checking the dates now, Chair.
Okay.
Excuse me, Chair. I've got the dates if you're interested, and I can confirm the dates.
I think I've just found them here, what you said, August, September, October and November 11th.
Yeah, we received, we've 2 tents, one on the 2nd of December yet to come that's gone through, one that was on the 11th of November, which would have been during lockdown. Those were received by the authority on the 22nd of October. The food team were included in the circulation on those. Previous to that, there was one on the 18th of October that's been referred to. That was received on the 1st, and again, the food team were included in that.
Yeah. So there's only one gone through since we've started this new lockdown.
That's correct.
So that was already signed off before.
Yes, that came in on the back end of October, so it would have been, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any further questions to police?
Just a point of order, Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
And the highly emotional statement about 55,000 deaths due to COVID. Of course, the true facts, which I'm sure he understands, are that it's 55,000 deaths for any reason that have been tested positive within the last 28 days, not from COVID. Just a point of order. And while we've been speaking, the government are announcing that fans will be allowed back into football matches now. Just trying to throw that into the equation. Thank you.
Chairman, can I bring a few points up, because obviously there's quite a lot of information that the police have just put out there, just to put out some facts, if that's okay. So yeah, I was told to put in a 10 notice from the venue, which I was unaware I had to do on the 11th, which I put in immediately on that evening. I apologise for the lack of information. It doesn't mean that the event's going to be lack of planning or lack of follow through, though, because of the information put on there. On the 12th of November, I received an email back that they'd received the 10. The police actually got in contact with me. Apologies, John, I can't remember John's surname, so apologies for that. But John got hold of me. I spoke to him on the phone. I got a phone call on that evening from the venue to say that the police had been down, in their words, mob-handed. Had a look around the venue. The venue actually, if you look at the dates, is actually the day after the event that they'd had the previous day. So it was still set up with all the regulations, the COVID plan and everything in place at that stage. I was told that my information had to be submitted by the 25th of November. I've got this on email to confirm as well. And then I was then told on the 16th of November that no, it had to be done by the 17th of November. Again, I work full time myself. You know, I have a job and businesses that I have to attend to. On the 16th of November, I got a 6-page objection notice from the police. So I had no time to plan to put anything in to avoid coming to this stage to work with the police and environmental health to put an event on. The objections were already put in before I had any opportunity to put any information across, any risk assessments or anything like that. So that's the factual basis of how the dates went. I'd also like to thank the police on their efforts on in doing this. They've spent a lot of effort, and I really appreciate the time they seem to have spent in their off time as well to do it. So that's really good of them. The reason I only sent one contract because I was unaware that I had to send them all. I can send all the contracts. That's not a big problem. So yeah, obviously the email bundle has been answered. I'd also suggest that the police probably want to have a look at an event that's at the current venue with 300 in there today, at the same venue, because they're talking about COVID regulations. I don't understand how, if that's what they're concerned about, and they're majorly concerned about, is there's filming there today with 300 people there. They regularly have filming with lots of people going. They put on COVID-safe events for all kinds of work, all kinds of filming, all kinds of productions every single day of the week at the production park without issue. Also, the British Boxing Board of Control, well, they might as well just gone and asked the Olympic Society. Athletic any other governing body. There's no relevance to what we do. We're not under the British Boxing Board of Control. So what they say has no relevance or meaning to this. And I'll just refer the council, please, back to one thing in all this, with all the paragraphs and all the grand speak of the police and the legal teams and all this kind of thing. I'd just like to say, elite sport is defined as this, and this is the heading: as an individual who derives a living from competing in a sport. I would say when we've got guys earning £10,000, that's earning a considerable living from the sport. And like I said, I would like, whatever happens in the outcome of this, a bit further time for myself to gather some sort of legal representation and be able to put a case properly forward, because again, I do feel that I've been blindsided with the dates, and like I said, I was told I had till the 25th of November originally to get my date in. I had objections before I even had the revised date of the 17th of November. Now, I appreciate everyone's got to do diligence. I completely understand and what I'm doing. I'm not being awkward. I wanted to work. I've always worked with the police and the licensing authority, and worked with them when we've had tens before in the early days and put on secure events for everything. I completely get that, but there's no reason that an MTK show can go on in this lockdown when they pay less money than us with the same COVID regulations and then be all this uproar for that. I appreciate my information was lacking. I completely get it. But when I did 10s previously, after I'd got a 10, then we'd had some sort of group information where, this is environment health, this is police. I'd actually had meetings with them. We discussed the event. They raised areas of concerns, things that tighten up. With this, I should have realised from the early days, when my first initial conversation, and again, I refer to the PC as PC John. I apologise. I think it's Kehoe, so I apologise if I get the name wrong. When he said to me, "You do understand the history of boxing in Yorkshire," and I was like, "What's that then?" And he was referring to trouble in Ellen Road years ago, which I just should have thought to myself then, well, clearly there's an issue, and you've got some sort of pre-notion of what this event's going to be before we've even started. So that's all. I know there's a lot to take in. I appreciate the police's effort on that. I wish I'd had an opportunity to work with them rather than against them, which it feels like we've got here. I'd also appreciate if we perhaps not all had the time today, we could have, a lot of these issues that have been raised today, we could have sorted out between ourselves. I'd also like to have just one other further point is, MMA has no governing body in this country. So if the UFC were putting a show on at the production park, they would have no British Boxing Board of Control. Anyone in the legal department can go and check that. They actually are self-regulated, the same as us in bare knuckle. Thank you.
Okay. Right. And we're now going on to go with no more interested parties to come in. Go on. No. Well, then I'm going to go over to all parties present. Do you want to briefly summarise your points? Have you just summarised all yours, Mr. Freeman?
Oh, I would say, yeah, there's nothing else to say. Obviously, I get my cases a little bit lacking at the time. I'd like the time to be able to present a better case. That's for sure, and have the correct tools to put on an event in Wakefield and to bring some employment to the community.
Right. Thank you. Can I then ask Julie, have you got anything else to summarise?
No, I said my conclusion at the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I go back then to PCK? Would you like to summarise on yours, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, it's Sergeant Fold again. I'm only going to speak very briefly because obviously we've taken some time to go through that. I just want to respond back to Mr. Freeman there. I would argue that we have tried to explain to him as we've tried to deal with this where we are the whole way through. We did ring him and tell him why we'd had to put the objection in. Obviously, Paul and Dave there will be aware of the time constraints with the temporary event notice. If we don't put an objection in, we will run out of time and the 10 will be granted. So it doesn't stop us from then continuing to speak with Mr. Freeman, which we did, and tried to continue to speak with him to try and to work through this. If he had responded to some of our emails in relation to the contracts and maybe passed them across, that might have assisted us a little bit more. So just want to emphasise the fact that we, as far as I'm concerned, as a licensing team, we have done a proper job here. We haven't tried to be underhanded at all, which appears to be the accusation. We have dealt with Mr. Freeman, as far as I'm concerned, completely fairly.
If that's all, can I just say, as all parties satisfied that they have had their say regarding this application?
From the police, yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'll type silences that's a yes. Can I then say that the subcommittee will now make their decision in private, accompanied by our committee services and our legal officer. Therefore, can I ask the applicant and the objectors to now leave the room, and we will get you back in when we've had our discussions.
Chair, before they leave, can we just get a time for them to come back in?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't be able to get hold of them.
What we're going to look at, Paul?
I would say not before 4:30, Chair.
Yeah. Can we just say 4:30 then, Karen, and we'll try and get them back in on time, if that's okay?
Yeah, if they just use the link again to get back in, and they'll go into the lobby at 4:30, and then once we're ready, we'll let them back into the meeting.
That's fine. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I would now like to hand over to Paul Jakes to give you the summary. Paul?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah. The subcommittee have considered the application for the temporary event notice for the behind closed doors boxing event at Production Park to be held on the 27th of November. The applicant, James Freeman, submitted the application on the 11th of November 2020. The objection notices were received within the permitted time by the licensing authority from Environmental Health and West Yorkshire Police. Both objections referred to public nuisance and also crime and disorder licensing objectives, and referred to the lack of information content in the application, and also, given the current restrictions due to COVID, the Health Protection Coronavirus Restrictions England No. 4 Regulations 2020. James Freeman has confirmed he has operated similar events at large venues across the country, and that this event is proposed for live streaming in 28 different countries. He confirmed at the outset of this hearing that he was not aware of the TENS process and the requirements for a temporary event notice application and approval. He explained the detail behind his application and the event, and submitted evidence to the licensing authority today, confirming details about COVID testing, the secure environment, and the medical precautions that will be in place. The lack of such detail in the application inevitably led the police and environmental health to submit objections to this application. Those objections are based upon the regulations and that it would not comply and would not meet the exemptions for movement of people and gatherings, and also does not meet the elite sportsperson exemption. Environmental health have also confirmed that there will be a risk a prejudicial risk to health. Reference was made by Mr. Freeman to other events that have taken place at this venue, which the subcommittee understand were under BBBC regulation. The applicant states that this event is no different. The concept of this event may well be the same. However, the police did confirm that the BBBC means that they are classed as an elite sport and therefore exempt under the regulations. Those applications were also submitted to the licensing authority prior to the current national lockdown restrictions. In this application, no specific risk assessment has been produced, and information has been submitted late for consideration today, which include limited evidence to confirm that the event is for elite sportspersons and therefore will be exempt under the regulations. In the circumstance that the subcommittee is not satisfied with this application and considering all the information is not satisfied to grant the 10, and will therefore issue a counter notice and consider this to be appropriate and proportionate to the information that's before it today. That's the decision, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. I'd just like to thank everybody for attending. And I will say that a copy of the decision will be sent in the post to all parties. And I would now like to close this meeting and ask Kate now to stop the live stream. Thank you, everybody.